Podcast. I know what you're thinking. This is not the studio. Don't worry, we will be back recording next week. We just had some sort of schedule conflicts. We will be back. We will be releasing more frequently. We will do a real music release show with Mahesh. But I've just finished listening to this new Drake album, and as it's sort of the hot topic at the moment, I just sort of decided to strike while the iron's hot. So right off the rip, guys, I want you to tell me what you guys thought of this Drake album. You can either go on Twitter and tell me, links in the bio, go on to Instagram, or you can just drop it in the comments, or just message me personally if you know me like that. But hopefully at this point we're getting to people who don't know me like that, so just message me through the accounts. But yeah, man, this album's called Honestly Nevermind, and Nevermind, honestly, my bad, but honestly Nevermind, because I've never walked away from a Drake album this confused and sort of thoughtless, because I know a lot of you probably have come here thinking, yes, Lloyd's gonna rip this to shreds. He hasn't spoke about the Drake album yet. He's been waiting. I was like, nah, I've just been on holiday. Like, I'm not trying to listen to the new Drake album when I'm, in Sicily eating arancini, you know what I mean? But yeah, I'm just a bit confused because Drake, for me, is, as a regular consumer of Drake since I've been maybe like 11, 12, like, I feel like Drake's always has released what he knows his audience to want. And what I mean by that is Drake is a genius, when it comes to these kind of things. Even on albums like CLB, which wasn't the greatest album in my opinion, he always stretches himself to the utmost limit. He's always tried to include a little bit of everything that the people love about his music. So at the end of the day, you as a Drake listener can come away from an album thinking, there's something for me. Even on CLB, there is something for me. There's something for you, most likely. You know what I mean? And that's what Drake's done really well. He did it really well on Scorpion too. When he had the A side, which was a bit rappy, and there's a lot of songs that I really like of that. Sandra's Rose, 8 out of 10 Cat. However, saying all of that, going back to my previous point, Drake has been known to stretch himself, and I don't really recall anybody asking for dance music. Like, I think Drake has taken from many cultures and used elements of music he's liked on, albums like Views, which was pretty lifeless to me, but a lot of you seem to like it. But I suppose this new record isn't much about Drake as it is him shifting in sound, which in theory for me, when I first heard people's criticisms about it, was great, because I think Drake is in a severe need of a style switch up since Views, arguably, which to me has seen him become very very complacent. But honestly, Nevermind does present Drake in a new light over a series of beats inspired by house and dance music, but not quite EDM festival dance music, more like sad on your own, after when you go back to some random person's party for house for afters and you're thinking, what am I doing here? Shouldn't I have something to do at home? Like, where's my life going? That kind of music. It's all one of the worst parts about it is there's some groovy instrumentals that are listenable, but most of it is delivered in this vaguely moody tone, in your feels vibe. And listening to these records and listening to people's opinions, I think one of the biggest sort of people's defenses were, and I mean, if you like the album, that's great, don't get me wrong, like, you like what you like, and that's totally understandable. But a lot of people who are sort of, the Drizzy Dick Riders, as I like to call them, who were sort of saying, oh, but it's house music. And I mean, I'm not the biggest expert on house music. I'm definitely not the biggest expert on house music. But don't you think that's sort of a big insult to house music? I mean, I grew up listening to sort of a lot of Daft Punk records, Calvin Harris records, where, they take the element, especially Calvin Harris now as well, where, he's known to take, and Daft Punk, they take the elements of house, they bring in a little bit of funk, maybe not with Calvin Harris, but You know, they bring in these different elements of pop, things, older music as well. A lot of 80s pop influence and Calvin Harris, a lot of techno from Daft Punk, and they stretch it to the point where it becomes this great new thing. But if this feels lifeless, it feels almost this is going to sound really bad, but it feels almost posthumous album. Is that how you say it? Because it feels like the record label has just got a bunch of demos and shoved them into this album. And to say, I'm not saying it's the worst house music of all time. Do not get me wrong, that is not what I'm saying at all. While I've just said, you know, this honestly Nevermind is definitely a change for Drake. At the same time, it's honestly not that different. It's honestly, he's going down the exact same path he's been going down for a few years. I think the dance beats on this project have given Drake more of an excuse to disconnect lyrically, which is a big theme on this album, the lack of quality songwriting, and also the performances, which I get, because this album is less about what Drake has to say, more about him riffing over these kind of dance beats, which makes a lot of sense, because it's not really, we're not looking for songwriting here. But at the same time, this is a continuation of the absolute mediocrity he's been delivering us in a few years, and not even just in his singing songs, it's his rapping too. And don't get me wrong, Drake has hit it out the park before. I mean, a lot of people don't like more. I love More Life. It's More Life. I haven't heard a Drake project since More Life, and that's only because Drake catered to me a lot of More Life. Like, you know, by putting gigs on there, you knew I was gonna like it. Like, this is what I was saying about stretching yourself. Drake this just doesn't make any sense, and I see people comparing this to 808. And will this have that longevity that album had? Because I wasn't around when it dropped. I was around when it dropped, but I weren't really in the streets. Like, I was going to my year 5. You know, I was in year 5. Like, I didn't really know. I just knew Love Lockdown and Heartless. When I first heard 808s and Heartbreak, maybe it's because I heard it after it came out, long after it came out. I just don't see this album having that sort of longevity, because it's just a mess. It's a whole mess. I have no issue with Drake doing this, no issue at all. I think it's great for him. I think it could have panned out into a great LP. If you told me Drake's dropping a house album, you know, and it didn't sound like this, I might have been excited for it. I mean, it's not the music I listen to on my day to day, but you know, it's summertime. You know, if you've got like a barbecue, family around, you want to put something on, but you know, it might catch a vibe. You know, I think Calvin Harris is dropping soon as well. Like, if you told me that, I'd be like, oh, cool, that's family barbecue time sorted. Like, you know what I mean? But this is just so. If he had just attempted, it feels rushed. It feels lackluster. Like, at least on his other albums, even on CLB, I really, really, really think Drake has attempted to give this audience what they think they want and what they think they can walk away with. And I mean, I know I'm going to go through this with Mahesh, and I have not heard Mahesh's opinions yet, but I don't think they'll be as strong as mine. I just think he could have collaborated with some more people. I mean, Magic Jordan and Party Next Door have both dabbled into this sort of music, and with a lot more better results. I mean, I don't listen to them, not a lot to insult them, like, it's just not my vibe, but surely he could have tapped into them. And I mean, it's at the point where Drake doesn't have to try, and people made that excuse for him. You know, he's too famous to try. You know, his body of work speaks for himself. And I mean, if it was Kendrick, I'd be like, fair play. You know, even when Kanye did 808s, people have allowed Drake more wiggle room than they did him. And Kanye had released 3 classic albums back to back. Drake's neither of Kim or Kendrick. So when Kendrick tries something new on this new tape, I give him wiggle room, because Kendrick is the GOAT of this generation by far. And I mean, he's up there. I honestly think he might be top 3 for me, just personally. Like, but that isn't Drake. You've not dropped a Good Kid, Mad City. You've not dropped a Section 80. You've not dropped a To Pimp a Butterfly. Like, but I'm just gonna leave it here. You know, you guys could let me know your opinions. You could hear me talk about it on the podcast. Yeah, I just think with the resources at Drake's disposal, he should have done a lot better. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. I'll see you soon. Peace.